Hello and welcome to this big clever video. This video is my build video for the TCU challenge with the theme Encounter in a Box. Now I really struggled with this one. It took a little while for me to come up with an idea, but eventually I did, and it was, as quite often is the case, inspired by Rosie and a book that she loves, which is the Gruffalo, which I'm sure a lot of people know about. So my friend Quin, who does Quinian's Budget Crafts, and I'll try to remember to put a link to his channel up somewhere on the page, even though he doesn't make videos at the moment for various reasons, but his channel's still there and it's still stuffed full of awesome content, so go check him out. Quin did a sculpt for me of the Gruffalo, and this was not related to this project, and I thought, you know what, that's a great idea. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Watch how I do this diorama. It is right now in the library or in the lounge, I think. It hasn't managed to fit into Rosie's bedroom, unfortunately, but she does love it. It is awesome, and I really hope you enjoy watching how I go about making this diorama, and maybe it will inspire you to do something similar. So do let me know in the comments below if it does. If you do want to comment, I reply to every single one of them. If you don't, that's fine. I just really hope that you all enjoy this video, and I'll see you again at the end. So my very good friend Quin from Quinian's Budget Crafts, not that he's making any videos at the moment, but his channel is still there, did this for me. It is obviously the Gruffalo. He just made it for me at my request because Rosie loves that book, and frankly so do we. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to get that painted up, and I'm going to do a little diorama for Rosie. Now I don't know when exactly I'll get it finished. I don't have time to do that and finish it before I go away on my break, but at least I can get started, and then potentially I'll finish it off when I get back. So I'm just going to prime that up now. I printed it out quite a while ago, 2 months ago. It's just been sat on my bench, and I think, yeah, I'm going to get that started. So I'll prime it up, start painting it. Might get it painted before I go away, but at the very least what I'll be able to do is have that waiting for me when I get back, and get the little diorama finished. So this is modelled on the bit, if you've read the book you'll know at the end where, or in the middle, where he actually comes across, where the mouse comes across the Gruffalo for the first time. So I'm going to put some trees around it and have a little mouse, and that'll be a really cool little scene. Anyway, there we are. Thought I'd quickly get it started now before my holiday. So this project, which has sat, I've primed the model but I've not done anything else, is now going to actually take a bit of priority, and I'm going to try to get it done. I'm even going to try and get it done before Rosie gets back from the break, which is about 2.5 weeks now. I almost certainly won't achieve that, but at least if I try, then I might. But yeah, so the challenge for the TCU is Encounter in a Box. So I'm going to do this encounter between the Gruffalo and the mouse in a box. So I'm going to have fun with that. So I'm going to make some trees. I'm actually quite excited about this. I've been wanting to do it for ages, but just the holiday and then coming back being so busy on tourney has stopped me from doing anything hobby-wise. But I think I can probably knock this out pretty quickly and pretty easily. So the first thing will be to paint up the Gruffalo, which should be, as you see, quite simple. It's got simple coloration, and then I will find myself a box and work out and start to do all this awesome things. So we've got a fallen down tree here, we've got some rocks, we've got a path, and what I might even try to do is put the words in the box so that it is literally a reproduction of this page, and then that can be another awesome thing for Rosie to have on her wall. She loves this book, so do I, so does Angela. So yeah, anyway, so I'm going to get onto this. So the first thing will be painting. When I've done that, I'll bring you along, we'll do the next steps. Once I finish painting it, I'll try and get that done as soon as possible. Well, I managed to get this painted. I'm really pleased with how it looks. Might do a little touch up, make the eyes a bit more yellow, but that's near enough for me for now. I'm going to struggle to stand him up again. Doesn't stand up very well on his own. Anyway, so that's good. Very pleased with that. Purple spots on his back, purple spines all over his back. Prickles even. So the next thing to do for this is I'm going to find a box, which is what I'm going to build it in. And I'm going to have to think about how I'm going to do the little mousey. I'm going to have to sculpt that myself. But yeah, I'm going to get the box first, think about the mouse, and start doing the trees. The trees I'm going to do in my usual. You can see that we're only going to really need the tops. So it's needed the trunks, the first of the trunks. So I should be able to do that with some air dry clay, which is good. Yeah, I'm really actually quite excited. I'm not sure if I'm going to manage to get that bird in, but I might try. But yeah, going to have a go, and I am going to try and write on top of the path. I don't know how I'm going to do this. This is going to be tough, but I'm going to try and get onto the path the words. But we shall see if I manage to do that, or if that is a step too far. But yeah, not a very long paint job. Quite simple actually in the end. I'm pretty pleased with how it's come out. So I found my box. It's an old Games Workshop Ruins of Dol Guldur, and the base has some cool runes around it, and is also a good size. So if we have a look at the picture and we have a look at the size of my miniature, I'm going to be able to do quite a good amount of trees around the back of it. It's going to work pretty well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make use of these offcuts, which I have had lying around for ages and I was going to throw away just the other day. And I'm going to basically cut them to size to fit in here using the Proxon, and then glue them in and make a lasagna type, because mainly it's going to be a very, very small amount of kind of shaping for the path. And then I'm going to use modelling compound to build up most of the contours anyway. So I'm going to measure the inside of this and make sure that I cut all of these exactly the right size as best as I can, and then I will show you how I go about doing the gluing when I get to it. So I'm just going to go now and quickly get that done. Need to get back into hobbying, and as you all know, the best way to do stuff is to just do a little bit at a time, and this is going to take me a few minutes, and then I can leave it overnight under weights, and then tomorrow I can come along and do another little step and then another little step, and that is the way you get lots done. Right, so as it happened, I ended up using my safety ruler and my alpha blade to do that, because the dimensions were just a bit too big for reliable cutting on the on the hot wire cutter, and also none of these were square. So I had to kind of get my set square, which is also another useful tool, square them off, and then I was able to fit it in, as you can see, and that looks great. Now I've gone for 3 levels, and with a little bit less, with not quite going right up to the top, because I'm going to do modelling compound like I say. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to glue this in place using my super sticky glue. So we're just going to put a bead around here, and then a bit of a squiggle. There we are. I'm going to put the first level in. And then I'll keep doing the same thing. And we'll just put weights on this and leave it overnight. And then tomorrow I can come in and start to build up the modelling compound and think about the trees and the rocks and other fun things like that. And then I'm going to have to work out how I'm going to do a mouse, which is going to be fun as well. As you can see, I'm not worried about the fact that these don't fully fill the box. There's little gaps either side because the top one does, and even if that caused a problem, then the modelling compound would act as a filler as well around the sides. So yeah, here's my box, and it's going to be the mouse's encounter with the Gruffalo that will be going on this. Wasn't too sure about this challenge when it was first announced. I actually thought I might not enter at all. But now, as is often the case when initially you're not very excited about something, now I actually am quite excited. Right, I'm going to grab myself some weights. What I use is they're just in the corner. And they're really useful. So these are big joints, so they're carpentry heavy steel squares, and I use them because they're really useful, because you can fit them in like so, and that will be enough to weight this down and keep it flat. So I'll leave that overnight, and then when I get a minute, hopefully I'll get some time tomorrow, we'll start looking at the next step. Alright, so they've glued in nice and securely. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to and this will be covered up, of course, but I'm going to mock out roughly where things are going to go. So he is the Gruffalo is going to be there, and that means the path is going to do this. It's going to come in from here, and it's going to go off around and back, and then it's going to come around here. There'll be a tree there, and it'll do something like that. So that's roughly what the path is going to look like. And what we'll have is have a tree there, a tree there, a tree there, and then some smaller trees here, and a tree there. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 big trees. Now what I have here is what I'm going to use certainly for that tree and potentially for this tree as well, as the basis for the trunk, because I will then blend it with the air dry clay. Now I might look for a slightly thinner one than this, but this is basically the idea. So we'll stick this down and then put the air dry clay on over the top of this, and that will then make a tree, and I'll obviously seal the top as well. So I should be able to cut that. If we look at the size, I should be able to cut that in half, so that should do both of those. And I need to find another one like that, which I'm sure I've got upstairs, to do this one here, and then I'm going to need to have some smaller ones, and I'm not sure what I'll use for those, but I'll work it out to do these 3 trees. In terms of the rest of the layout of it, we have this little tree here, and I can reach over and I have one of these, so that will be absolutely fine. And then the rocks I'll do with either the modelling compound or something like that as well. So there's actually only 1 or 2, there's another one there in this corner. There's 2 of these little evergreens which I'll put in. Still haven't looked at the mouse. I will get to it. I have done some sculpting in the past. I'm not great at it, but I will give it a go. So yeah, anyway, so I'll get that done. I'm going to look to cut this down and stick this in place. I'll bring you along when I get to that, when I get that done. So I just look at cut it down and try and find the correct sizes for these trunks, and then I'll bring you back when I've got that all cut and ready to glue, and I'll show you how I'm going to stick those in place. So I managed to find another length of the same type of pipe, and I actually just put it through the my table saw so that I can cut it perfectly flush and square, and that worked really well. Made a horrible noise, but it worked well. Probably blunted the blade a bit, but never mind. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to stick these down in place. For the smaller trees, I've had to go for one of these dowels, which is a shame because they're quite expensive, but I don't have anything to hand which is going to do that. I did look at a bit of ducting that I had, but it's a bit flexible and it's not really the right size. So I will also cut that down to the same length, which is 14 centimeters, 140mm, and stick those in place as well. And then when these have gone off, I will come along with the modelling compound and model it, seal the base, build the base up, and then I didn't do that very well. And then the rest of the roots and what have you, I will then sculpt on top of the modelling compound. So there we are. So I'll get this glued in place like that, then let it set, and I'll bring you back for the next step when I get to it. So these are now nicely dried in place. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do an initial skim of the modelling compound around the edge of the path, so everywhere where the path isn't. Let that go off, and then what I'll do is I will start to build up the stones and rocks and what have you, and also do the path as well. But I want to make sure that the path stays obvious because I'm pretty happy with the shape of it. So just going to mix up some modelling compound. That might be too much, but I'm not sure. Let's make slightly less. Mix up some modelling compound and just smooth it in all around here. And then once that's done, as I say, I'll do build up the rocks, and I'm also going to do the air dry clay when that's dried, and then I will do the rest of the modelling compound. So I'll just chuck some music on. You've seen this many times, and get this done. You can watch how I do it, but listen to some nice music, and then we'll let that go off, as I say. So yeah, enjoy the music. Alright, so that's now all dry. I actually had a phone call, my daily call with Andrew and Rosie during the last video, which is why you might have seen it pause. And in that brief conversation, all of my modelling compound went off. I had to try and save it again. Anyway, managed to, got it all done. So what I'm going to do now is actually what I probably should have done before. I'm going to mask off around the sides of this, because the next thing I'm going to be doing is the air dry clay, and that is almost certainly going to be a very messy process. It often is. So I'm just going to quickly mask the box, because I can probably quite easily rub off the modelling compound, but air dry clay will make much more of a stain. So yeah, and then I'm going to start working on the trees, on the clay for the trees, which is going to be the longest process of this whole thing. I do also still need to sculpt my mouse, and I still haven't even thought about it, but I'll get there, don't worry. Anyway, so I'll get this done, get this all masked off, and I'll bring you back when I get to the clay work. Alright, let's see how much mess this makes. So I've got some air dry clay, and I've got a bath full of water here, a little tub full of water, because you need to keep your fingers very moist on this. And the other thing you need is PVA, which I'd forgotten about until just that second. So I'm going to grab my little plate for PVA, and what I am going to do is put the book away so I don't accidentally get it covered in air dry clay, because that would be a tragedy. The reason why you need to have PVA is, as I always say when I'm doing this, clay is not sticky, it's not an adhesive, so a little bit of PVA painted on will then mean it actually sticks to whatever it is that you're attempting to make it stick to. So just paint a bit of PVA on your target object, and then you can go to town with your air dry clay. If you forget this process, it can quite easily flake off. It won't necessarily if it's got its enough integrity in itself to stay on, then it won't fall off. But this is just a little bit of like comfort, or just making absolutely sure that it will definitely not fall apart. With PVA isn't very much to add, is it? So camera battery's dying, so I'm going to change the battery on the camera, and then when I'll put it on with some music, and you can watch as I do this sculpting. Right, so as you can see, I've done the trees. I'm really happy with how it looks. And I'm going to do the next step. And the next step is I'm actually going to paint the entire thing brown. Now, it's not going to end up brown because, as you can see, we've got a yellow sandy path, and we've got grass, and we've got going to have a slightly darker brown trees than the brown I'm going to use. But it's just going to give a good undercoat to basically cover everything in brown, I think. So I've got a big brush because that makes it more efficient. And yeah, I'm just going to slap that on. Now, the next step after this, I've been thinking about the texture of the path. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my grout mix. So it's been a little while since I've used that, so it's going to be nice to get that back on the channel and demonstrate how that works. But yes, I'm going to use the grout mix, and I've got some really nice grout mix which will give a really good colour, base colour, for that yellow to then be layered over the top. So yeah, it won't take me very long, as you can see, with this big brush. And once that's done, I'll let it dry, see if there's anything I want to touch up and add more paint to. If not, then I'll bring back and do the grout mix with you then. So let's get the rest of this done, and I'll turn the camera back on when I come to the next step. Right, that first colour went on okay. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to sculpt some rocks. So I'm going to put a rock here, a rock here, a rock here, one back here, and a small one in here, because yeah, that's what I need. So I've opened a new pack of the air dry clay. I have some white air dry clay, which is going to be a bit better for this. So the same as before. What I'm going to use, I'm going to basically just mould it into a shape. Bit of PVA where I want to stick it, which is going to be about here. Just spread that around, and then stick my rock in place. Once that's dry, I can then start to, I'm going to hear the dogs barking, shush, shush, Zena. Once that's dry, then I will be able to come along and do the next stage of the painting. So yeah, Thelma is getting a little bit angry because she wants to come in, because it's just started raining, and that dog does not like rain. Right, there we are. But anyway, so simple as that. And they can be painted grey quite nicely on top of that. So it won't take me very long. So I'll get this done. I'll go and let Thelma in. Bless her heart. Tell you what, I won't pour water on. That shows how distracted I am by Thelma whiffling outside. Yeah, I'll go and get Thelma in as well. It's not fair, leaving her out in the rain. Poor little pup. She's never liked rain, that dog. There we are, a couple of rocks. Looking good. One more behind here. Small one there. And then I promise I'll go and get Thelma. There we are, let that dry now. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to paint the rocks grey. So this will take 2 applications of the grey, and the reason I'm doing this now is I'm going to be able to blend in using flocks and other stuff rather than painting the grey on top and then potentially doing it last would not work. So first of all, we're going to paint the dark grey and then let that dry, which won't take very long in this temperature, and then I'll come along with a lighter grey and just kind of like probably speckle it on a bit rather than paint it. So dab it on to give a little bit of a speckled effect of lighter grey. So yeah, won't take long, get this done, and then we can start working on the grout for the path, that lovely yellow colour. And yes, I know I still need to do the mouse. I should probably get that started soon, to be fair. Right, I will bring it back when I come to do the light colour grey, once this is dried in an hour or so. So what I'm doing now, as I say, just come along with the lighter grey. I'm just kind of like speckling on top of these just to give a little bit more texture. I don't want to do too much. So yeah, once that's all dried, I will be able to come along and start doing the rest of the texture on the whole piece, which I'm quite excited about. So yeah, I think that looks pretty good. Pretty happy with that. So next up, we'll mix up some grout mix and do the path. Well, it's been a little while since I've done this, so let's do this on camera. I'm going to make up my special grout mix, which I really like using. So what you do is you take some grout. This is the stuff that you put between tiles, like the tiles that are on the floor here, to seal that gap. And then this is sifted sand from my back garden. So it's very, very fine sand. And then reaching over, I put a load of PVA in. Now the reason I add PVA is it adds some flexibility, so it's not going to shatter, because on its own, what I've found that grout often, if you don't add PVA just to give it that little bit of flexibility, it will become quite brittle when it dries. And then a little bit of water. And I have done a video specifically on this, which is linked in the description of every single one of my videos. But yeah, the thing that I say most clearly is it's a little bit hydrophobic, if you can see that. It doesn't really want to mix with the water. So you have to fold it and fold it and fold it until finally it starts to combine. And you don't need very much water at all. You look at it initially and you think, oh, I haven't got enough water, I haven't got enough water. But then keep mixing and you'll see that we're getting a really nice paste. And that there, even though I haven't done this for such a long time, is pretty much perfect. Really good texture. So I use old brushes for doing this, which I don't care about anymore because the grit and the glue and everything can stick in the brush and be quite hard to wash out. But you do then just paint it on. Now another little top tip, if you're going to do this, is if you make too much or you want to save it, if you stick it in a fridge and cover it, it actually does last for quite a long time. I mean, not for months, but for several days, so you can, like, you know, not waste materials, because who wants to waste anything? So anyway, I'm going to get this painted on. Don't know if I'll need to do 2 coats, but I'm going to try and get all of the track covered at least once, and then let it just set. Doesn't take long to dry this stuff, and then when I've seen how it looks, I'll decide if I'm going to do a second coat or not, and I'll let you know. But yeah, it's just as you can see, gives a little bit of a texture, and it's also, this is a nice colour that similar to what I'm attempting to mimic. So yeah, pretty happy with this. Let's turn the camera off. I'm muttering. I'll bring it back when I get to the next step. Well, my grout mixture has worked really well, but I'm going to need to do another application. As you can see, it's cracked a little bit. It's very, very warm here, so I'm probably going to wait until this evening to do the next coat, so that then it will dry overnight when it's cooler. But also, it's shrunk into the texture below, which I didn't want it to do. So I'll just put another skim over that and that should work fine. So yeah, but it's coming on nicely this now. I've got 2 weeks until I go to Ardicon, so I really need this finished by then because I don't want to have this hanging over me for when I get back. I'm very busy when I get back from Ardicon as well. So yeah, I'm going to crack on with this over the next couple of weeks and hopefully finish it. But it is coming on really nicely, and it certainly looks, I'm looking at it and it is a good approximation to what I see in the art on the book. My plan to do this last night fell apart because we actually had absolutely no running water in the house last night, which was a bit annoying. So I wasn't able to start this because we weren't able to wash anything and what have you. So today's a much cooler day. We've got a storm coming in. So this morning I've just put on another coat and hopefully that will be enough, but I'll check it out a bit later on. Right, that second application was a cracking success, as you can see. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to start to work on the grass. So there's going to be a couple of different steps for this. The first one is I'm going to put a couple of tufts in, because there are a couple of tufts that you can see in the picture not many, but a couple. So I've just got these from Geek Gaming Scenics. I've had these for a very, very long time. And the way that I apply this is very simple. I've done it lots, but I'll just quickly go over it again. So because I'm only going to put a couple in, I'm going to put a little dot of PVA glue everywhere where I'm going to put one. So I'm going to put one there. I'm going to put one in the middle between these roots, and I'm going to put another one just here between these roots. That was a little bit too much there, but that's fine. So next up, we take our tweezers and pick the tuft off using tweezers and set it down in the PVA. The reason I do that is that it's self-adhesive, but the self-adhesive can give up the ghost, but the PVA will just make it a little bit more long-lasting. And the reason for the tweezers is I always get these stuck to my hands, and tweezers normally make it easier. So there we are, a couple of tufts. Next thing that I'm going to do is I've pulled out my Pro Grass Micro Static Grass applicator, which I've never used before. I've used lots of their stuff, but I've never used this particular one before. And I'm going to put some, again from Luke from Geek Gaming, some spring 2mm static grass all over the rest of the brown. So what I'll do is I'll put some music on while I work this. But basically, you stick the static grass in the hopper, you turn it on, and I have put a battery in, and then you shake it out over the top. And I use the World Scenics Fast Tack glue. I found this to be absolutely the best glue to use when you're sticking down static grass. It's always worthwhile grabbing that. So I'll stick some music on, put it on fast, speed up, and let's get this done. Well, there we are. I'm sure you spotted the obvious mistake. I'm shouting at the camera before I started about putting paper down. Anyway, there we are. So what I'm now going to do is realise I actually only have one of these small brushes, so I'm going to have to go and get another one out of the pot. But I'm going to get my bradawl and poke a hole in the base just the other side of this stone, and then put some glue onto the trunk stalk thing. There we are, and push that in. So that's the first one. I'm going to need to get another one, and I'll stick it in just on this other side, but I'll have to go and get that out of the pot. And then I really cannot put off doing the mouse anymore, because the mouse is the next thing I need to do. Because there's the Gruffalo. That's where the Gruffalo is going to go. And the mouse needs to be over here, so I'm going to need to start working on that. So I'm going to get my wire out. I'll bring you along, show you how I do it. You can always have a laugh at how bad I am at sculpting, and hopefully it'll look alright. And if it doesn't, then, well, at least I'll have tried. Well, I've made a start on my armature for the mouse, having done nothing for days and days this week. I have a very busy week. It's going to be a little bit of a big mouse, but I think it's going to be okay. I'm quite happy with how it's actually working. So this at the back is the tail, and I'll snip these a bit shorter for the legs. and then this end will eventually turn out to be its arms. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to use some either milliput or green stuff to build that out, and then paint it, and then it'll be done. It's not very easy to film, which is why I'm not going to be able to film the process, but I'm literally just got one length like this one here, which I've got on the side, and I've just started like twisting it and winding it around on itself. I've made use of some pliers as well for helping at times. I've actually cut that in half so far, so that is actually 2 sections at the moment combined, and it may end up being 3, but I might be able to get the arms out of this tail here. So I'm going to keep going, keep winding, and then I will look to get the green stuff. I'll try to get some more footage if I can, but it's just very, very difficult. It's very fiddly, and it's hard to keep the camera in focus. Well, there we are. So I'm going to leave that now and come back to it later. You can see I've got the body and the head kind of roughed in there. Might need to point the nose down a little bit more, actually looking at it from this angle. But yeah, it's not terrible, it's not brilliant, but then I'm not a sculptor. Hopefully when it paints up it will give the impression of being a mouse. I've got a fair bit more to do on it though, of course. Got to do his ears, and then I'll have to paint him, but I'm not going to do the ears now because it's just a bit too delicate. I am going to try and point that snout down a bit more. Hopefully I won't destroy it. Alright, so now we need to make some ears for this mouse. So I've just mixed up way too much milliput, as is always the case, or often the case, traditionally. So I might make use of some of this spare to just do a little bit of touch up on the actual body. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut out a little section, like that, a little bit. And then, I don't know if this is going to work, but I'm going to try to shape it and mould it around the end of this little tool here, so that it's a little cup shape like that, and then hopefully I'll be able to stick that on. I'm going to put that way out over here so I don't lose it. When that's dried, hopefully we'll just stick that on and that will be able to become an ear. So I'll get the other one made in the same way and then do a little bit of touch up on this. There's a couple of little bits I can do around his neck, fix a few things, and then when these are dry I'll stick them on with super glue and then we'll get to the painting stage. So yeah, I'm not a great sculptor, but hopefully it'll sell the illusion. Well, there are my 2 ears that I've left on that rock to dry overnight, and what I'm now going to try and do, not on camera because this is going to be ridiculous, is I'm going to attempt to stick them onto his head. So there is the little mouse. So I'm going to get some super glue, some tweezers. I'm probably going to put the super glue onto something, dip the ears into the super glue on the tweezers, and then put them on top of the piece, and hopefully that's going to work, because if it doesn't work I've got absolutely no idea how else I'm going to do the ears. So we're going to give it a try. The other thing to point out is I did manage to find myself another tree, so I have positioned that in the right place here, just tucked behind this rock. So yeah, we're rapidly approaching done. Once I've got this mouse made and painted, then that's the last bits, which is really good. Very, very pleased. I'm really happy with how it's turning out, actually. This very, very happy with the with it. I think it looks really similar to the thing. The only thing I'm disappointed about, and I'm still trying to work out, is how I can potentially get the words. Now I've finished painting and texturing. I am wondering if very carefully I couldn't handwrite them on in here, but that risks ruining the whole thing. But I would like to, so we shall see. For now, the super fiddly thing of getting these ears glued on. So I'll show you what they look like when I've finished, if I don't completely destroy the piece. Well, there we are, my attempt at a mouse. I did just show it to Rosie, and she this time said it looked like a mouse, not like some other creature, which is what she said before. So that's now ready to be painted. So I'm going to prime that up and then paint it just in light browns and whites. Hopefully it will give the impression I'm looking for, and then I'll be able to glue everything together, and then I'm going to see whether I'm going to be able to write on the base. But the problem is, with this in the way, it's actually quite constricted. It's quite hard to get in with that tree in the way there, so I'm not sure if I'll be able to or not, but I'm gonna have a go anyway. I'm gonna try. Right, let's get to painting, and I'll bring you back when I've done that. Alright, now we come to the end of it. I'm back from Ardicon, got a few days left to finish this. Haven't yet managed to get the writing on, which I would very much like to do. But first of all, I've painted up the mouse, as you can see, and All that's left now is to snip off those bits of wire and then stick him in place, and then stick the Gruffalo in place, which is what I'm going to do now. So I'll get that done. I'm not going to do it on camera because I'm feeling very sick and shaky, and I'm just going to take it really easy. But I'm literally just going to snip off the legs and the arm. The tail looks great, and then stick him down just over here where he needs to go. It's actually just back here, and then yeah, I'll do the Gruffalo with some super glue as well, and that should hold him. So yeah, pretty pleased with how this looks. Might be a few more touches, more bits and pieces, maybe some leaves and brush that I might put on if I get time, just to fill in these gaps, because in the book there is. So I'll do this long. You can see that we've got leaves and what have you, so I can use some of Luke's forest ground cover for that, so I might do that as well. But anyway, I'm going to get this done now. I'll bring you back and show what it looks like when it is done. Well, there we are. I'm not going to move it because I've only just stuck them in, but yeah, I'm going to let that set and then have a think about whether I'll put any more of those little bits of brush of deadfall around. But that looks great. I'm very pleased with it. I had a lot of fun with this, a lot of fun indeed. Also, of course, I need to peel my masking tape off as well, don't I? Let's do that. Actually, let's do that not on camera and after it's dry, because I might need to pick it up and move it around. Yeah. Anyway, I'll get that done as well. Well, there we are. They're stuck in. The masking is taken off, and now what I need to do is hoover a bit with some of this grass, which wasn't quite there, so I can probably just turn over and knock that. Decide if I can do the writing, and decide if I'm going to add any more of the scatter on, but that might be done. I'm feeling pretty dreadful still. I got an early night last night, and temperature 38.9 when I checked it just now, so yeah, not great. But yeah, at least I finished it before the deadline, and that is good enough to submit. But I do hope that I do get those final little bits done as well. We shall see. The last thing I need to do is to scatter this little bits of detritus and what have you just in these areas. It's way too clean along the edge of the path. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to attempt a slightly different technique to what I normally do. Normally what I would do is put a load of glue down and then scatter over the top. However, I'm going to try scattering dry and then spraying glue to kind of seal it in place. So yeah, as you can see, this here is actually Luke's forest ground cover, which was what I thought would be ideal for this, and it really is. So we'll just scatter some of this around like so, and then what I'll do is I will spray glue over the whole thing to seal it. Now today is the last day of this challenge. I've been sick for days and haven't been able to even do anything. So yeah, I'm glad I'm feeling a little better now and able to actually get this final step done. So we'll just clear the path a bit. There we are, and then see whether Luke's matte sealant will work, which doesn't always, or hasn't ever actually. But there's a chance. It's squirting out sideways. Right, well this will at least seal it down. Right, there we are. So I'll let that dry in the sun. This has never worked for me, this spray thing. That's way too much in the middle. It's not going where I want it to. For example, none has gone on here. There we are. Yeah, so I'll let that dry, and that should wrap this up. Well, hey. Well, there we are. I managed to get that finished in time and photographed. I'm pretty happy with how that looks, particularly with the extra scatter. So I'm going to put that out on display in the lounge where Rosie can enjoy it and she can finally have her book back. Been a fun build, and really has turned out pretty much better than I expected. Even the slightly wall-eyed mouse I'm pretty proud of. But yeah, happy to have got it done. Happy to have got it finished in time, and all the other entries for this little challenge are, as always, absolutely superb. So yeah, let's see who wins. Well, there we are, what a fun build that was. And I'd actually forgotten, as I recorded the intro, just how sick I was at the end of that. And I was quite sick for weeks after that. That was a really, really low time. But looking back, I did okay. I managed to push it out the door. And yeah, it just goes to show that you can do what you need to do when you're sick. And then I probably collapsed back into bed. Yeah, that wasn't very well. Anyway, let me know what you think in the comments below. Does this inspire you? Have you done anything like this before yourself? Anything like that, I'd love to hear. I always reply to all the comments and they really do inspire me and motivate me, so don't be shy. But if you don't feel like commenting, that's fine. If you've made it this far, then thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate every single one of you. And I'll wrap up by saying, as I always do to everyone, please do stay healthy, stay safe, and stay well.